Ahlulbayt TV, the holy household for every household.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Dear viewers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back to our weekly live show from Toronto on Monday nights here live on Ahlulbayt TV, where tonight, due to popular demand, we're discussing once again about the issue of marriage, arranged marriage versus love marriage, with our dear guest, Sister Zakira Shyrose Jaffer Dhalla. Welcome back to Ahlulbayt TV.
It's a pleasure to be back. Thank you.
Tonight on Ahlulbayt TV, we're discussing part 2 of our program, and tonight we've decided to take on a different path, and that is to discuss about the issue of spouse selection. Again, this is after receiving wonderful feedback from our viewers from last week's program. Again, as I'd like to put it out there as a kind reminder that this is a live show, and would love to hear from you. I understand that this program is being broadcast live and streamed live on our Facebook page, and so please do continue putting forward your questions, your suggestions and your comments in regards to the show, or you can call us live on the program. The numbers should be appearing on your screens throughout the program here this evening. So as I was saying, that this is a part 2, and following last week's discussion on love marriage versus arranged marriage, there was a lot of comments surrounding spouse selection. So let's kick off our show for this evening and talk about spouse selection. What does Islam say about spouse selection?
It's a good question, because that was one of the questions that, or one of the comments that we had received in the live feed. And I want to thank everyone for making this so interactive. And we're looking forward to hearing from you. I know some people were saying that they couldn't get in through the lines. We've got a call from New Jersey. I think hopefully it will come through. And I want to say salam to all the people who are watching in England as well. It's going to be, I think, midnight over there right now, right? If it's 7 here for us.
It's 11 p.m. in England.
It's 11,
yeah.
so it'll end at midnight.
Yes.
Right. And so thanks to all those who are staying up to watch. And also I want to thank the ones who are also watching from India and Pakistan, Lucknow and Lahore, who have said that they are awake. When I was leaving home, they were saying, we're staying up to watch. Definitely this is hit a nerve, and it resonates with so many people, and we need to talk about this. This question about love and arranged marriage, like someone saying, is it haram to be in love? And we talked about this, about how it is hard to decide when that love cutoff point comes, because you can be going into a gray area. And looking at somebody in that way, you want to be very self-aware of what you're doing. So love in itself is not haram. It's okay to like somebody and to be attracted to their qualities and their values, and to express the proposal, as we see in this beautiful story of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Bibi Khadija alayhi salam. She was impressed by his qualities, about the fact that he was so dependable and so honest and so well liked. And he was a person who stood out for her amongst in the crowd. So it's not wrong to like somebody, but you have to be careful that you're not doing this just for the sake of to just enjoy somebody's company. But it's a serious matter, and it's always for a commitment. I mean, our religion allows that a man is allowed to see a woman once without her hijab if he's really serious about marrying her, which shows us that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala understands this whole need to be attracted to somebody and to really see what they're about, because there's so much more that is involved when you're deciding to spend your life with someone. So Islam is a way of life, and it's not as difficult a religion as we often make it out to be. And the Quran, the Holy Quran, does talk about mates and what they're for us, about them being the mercy and the you know, the peace for us, and we hear about you know, the person being a libas, a covering for each other. I particularly like this one ayat that I came across with Surah Tawbah, ayat 71, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, وَالْمُؤْمِنُونَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتُ بَعْضُهُمْ أَوْلِيَاءُ بَعْضٍ, where He says that the believing men and the believing women are allies for each other. I really loved that word, because when you look at allies, what do you allies? When do you become an ally? When you're fighting the forces out there, sometimes negative difficulties, in a war mostly. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that we can build a fortress, and we can and men and women together can become the strength together. And what happens when they do that? The believing men and women are allies of one another. They enjoin what is right and forbid what is wrong. That shows us that marriage is about doing amr bil ma'ruf and nahy anil munkar. It is about reminding each other about this path that we're on, reminding each other what our faith is about. And if you marry a spouse who is on the same track, on the same path, with the same values and principles, that's the only way they can be your ally. If they're against your faith, God forbid, or completely unaware of what your faith is about, and they don't even necessarily hold the same values about the faith. And this happens even when we're within the faith, by the way. And we're not talking about interfaith marriages. We're talking about even when you marry somebody from your own faith. Look for someone with the same kind of taqwa, the piety that you can work with. Someone who can teach you, you can teach them. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, they establish prayer, they give zakah, they obey Allah and His Messenger. So what are these qualities that Allah is mentioning? This is what you're looking for in your ally. And then a beautiful promise from Allah. Those, Allah will have mercy upon them. So marriage is hard, but Allah is saying, choose somebody who has these values, and I will instill that barakah and that rahmah and that mercy and the muwadda that you need, this love and passion that you need. I'm going to put it in there. You look for someone who can help you on the sirat al-mustaqim to head towards me. Indeed, Allah is exalted in might and wise. And I like this, what Allah is reminding us, just like when a child asks, why are you making me do this? It's hard, I can't do it. What does a parent say? I'll help you. And then says, trust me, I know this. I know why I'm asking you to do this. Have faith in my wisdom. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala very much wants us to choose somebody depending on what faith they're in and how strong their faith is. And I also want to add that the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was asked many times by people, what kind of faith should person should I marry? What kind of faith should they have? And he would say to them, marry someone who has a fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because if a person fears Allah and has a higher authority to look up to, they will never hurt you. They will never lead you astray as well. And when people would ask even that, what kind of person should we be with as a best friend? And marriage is really, right? With being with a best friend. He has answered that be with someone who helps you remember Allah and who reminds you when you forget Him. And I know you want to go to a comment, but I just want to finish with this, that Nabi Isa alayhi salam was also asked, what kind of person should I have as a companion? And I really love this because it has really helped me understand what the world is about and what life is about. Where Nabi Isa alayhi salam answers that when you're looking for a companion, choose somebody, the sight of him reminds you of Allah. So their expression of faith is outward as well. This is a person who's praying, fasting, who's staying up at night doing their salatul layl. They are dressing in their hijab. They have the beard. These are the reminders. When you look at them, you realize, hey, we're in this together, and we are both believers of the same God. And then number two, their speech increases your knowledge. This is not someone who's fighting with you about what Islam is really about and do we really have to do it. I mean, there's a level of taqwa where you don't even do something because whether it's makruh or just a little bit haram, but not very haram. You know, we split hairs. There's a level of taqwa you reach where you say, even if this is allowed, let me look at if I'm still hurting somebody in the process, or hurting my faith, or jeopardizing it, or compromising it. Therefore, I will stay away from this even though it's allowed, just in case it might offend my Lord. That's beautiful. So their speech also reminds you of God. And the third thing he says, that their actions make you desirous of the other world. This is a person who's volunteering, who's forgiving, who's doing amazing things, and they're reminding you, we won't be getting any recognition here maybe, but we're doing this for the akhirat. Their actions make you want that akhirat. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us all that kind of spouse.
Of course, these are some excellent qualities to look for in a potential partner. Now, one of the biggest challenges when it comes to spouse selection is that when somebody finds a woman or a man, whichever way you look at it, all these qualities, right, in their partner or potential partner, unfortunately, there are times where parents have already desired somebody else for their daughter or for their son. And this is a question that we've received from our Facebook viewer. And the question here is, what do you do when your parents are so against love marriages and will only allow arranged marriage with people from, quote, the tribe? And then the previous question, I guess, is very similar as well. Assalamu alaikum, should I just go into a marriage with a girl who is nice and religious, but her family won't allow us to meet or text before we make it official? So I guess the question here is, the underlining question here is that how do we convince our parents who already have a set mind when it comes to spouse selection?
Very good questions, and truly dilemmas that we've all faced and continue to face. I want to just contextualize my answer by first reminding us all that our parents are not our enemies. They're in this for us to have a better life. It's always about our betterment. And if we truly want to learn how to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all the scholars will tell us that the first way to learn how to do that, to believe and to obey in something that we can't see, is to learn how to obey our parents first. When you can take their love as a given and understand always that they're not here to give us a hard time, then you'll be able to obey Allah and say, you're not here to give me a hard time, you know what's best for me. When a parent says, we're marry within the tribe, within the culture, yes, it's very easy to say, you're being racist. Why are you against this black person? Why are you against this white person? So what if this person is Chinese? You guys have this bias. Definitely there is that component, and all of us do have these biases and prejudices, as studies show us, that we do tend to think of the other as bad, and feel safe with those who look like us. So it's not just our parents who do this. All human beings tend to have prejudices. The other thing is, though, parents, when they have lived long enough in a marriage, will tell you, will understand that it will make your life easier if you stick within the tribe, right? If you stick within the culture. And we talked at length about this. And it almost looks like we're just being so anti-marrying out of the faith, when so many of our imams have married out of the culture and married people of different colors. So why can't we do it? Absolutely we can. And there's no law against it. Absolutely we can. But the thing is, the caution here is that those who've been there and done that will tell you it's not an easy ride. Marriage is difficult as it is. And then when you stack the deck against you, and yes, definitely there are people who say, I'm a child of mixed races, and these questions that I get, the people, there is bullying, it looks like not a big deal. For those people who live through that, they say, why did my parents do that to me? There are many who do that. Yes, life is exotic. You've got parents of different colors and cultures, and you get so much out of it. You're getting to speak different languages and learn different things. But most often than not, people will talk about the difficulty it was in having parents of different faiths. So that's just for different faith or different cultures. So parents understand that you're looking at a difficult thing up ahead, right? Sure, they might have some prejudices, and they want that thing that their kids are and their grandchildren look like them. And you know what? I don't know if that's such a terrible thing to ask. Sometimes it's just, I have talked to young men who say, I would really like to marry a very fair girl. And I say, isn't that prejudiced? And they'll say, it's my preference. Nice way to hide behind this prejudice, right? But the person might say, I just prefer a fair-colored girl. Similarly, people prefer their culture sometimes.
Great. So are you saying it's not unfair for a parent to ask their child to marry somebody from within their tribe?
I'm saying it's not
given that particular individual has found somebody who they have a liking
to
towards.
that. So if they've found somebody, then that's different. But when a parent is setting you up for the future, sometimes parents will say, look, marry within the culture.
But that's the problem, right?
And then we say, no way, I'm never going to, how dare you say this?
I'm going to try and make this show engaging between
yes,
me
and you're going to give me a hard time. But what
I'm not going to give you a hard time.
I just want to complete this thought. That the thing is, parents want what's best for us. That doesn't mean they know everything.
But we're setting a bad precedent when we're putting it out there to say, hey, parents can ask their children to marry from people within their own culture or tribe.
Do you remember that
when you started the show
let
outlining
me
the
finish
qualities.
my thought. Let me finish my thought.
Okay, go ahead.
The qualities are there, but the parents will explaining to you, it will be difficult. It's a tough ride. It's a rough ride up ahead. If you keep some similarities, then you are making it easier for yourself. Okay. Qualities are important, absolutely, and that's what it should be all about. But when you make too many differences stack against you, there's any parent or even someone who's just been married will tell you, hey, when it's too different, you're looking for difficulty. So it's not unfair for a parent to caution, like any adult would. However, the other thing to take into consideration here is when you have kept a relationship with your own parents, when you've kept it so that they can hear you out, and you can say to them, Mom, Dad, I want to do this. For example, I want to go to Europe for a class trip. Even that can be sometimes like, no way, you're not going, right? I want to go overseas, or I want to take this course that's going to be, this and that. So what happens? You can end up yelling at each other, and no one will talk. Or you can end up sometimes lying to your parents because you haven't been able to articulate to them what you want in a calm manner. When you keep this relationship in your friendship with your parents, before these bigger decisions come in life, you set yourself up in such a way that you can sit down with them as an adult and say, I understand what you're saying. You are completely right about marrying out of the faith, and there could be pitfalls, and it'll be hard for me, and I'll be the one suffering. Yes, you will suffer in your own way, but you're worrying about me. But Mom, Dad, believe me, I have understood this person, and they have all these qualities that I want in a future mate. I remember I was helping a young couple once, and she was a revert. She had become a revert because he had helped her. So when she said to me, when I started to speak to them, I said to her, listen, are you doing this just to marry him? Because it's not going to be easy. And she said to me, no, Islam has really inspired me. I want to be a good Muslim. And I remember saying to him, when I took him aside, I said, listen, are you sure you want to do this to your mother? Are you sure you want to marry out of the culture and do all these things? Because it's going to be hard. Like a parent, I spoke to him. I said, she's a wonderful lady. But are you sure? Because it's really hard what you're doing. First of all, you're going to have to deal with your mother, etc. And then you know what happened? At some point, as I got to know them, I went back to him and said, I don't think you should marry her because she's too good for you. I think in her taqwa, in her piety, I think you might bring her down. So what had happened was, once I got to know her, I understood that all that cultural stuff was a worry of mine, but she truly is sincere about this faith. And he had a difficult time explaining it to his mother. It was terrible. And he said, I will never go against your wishes, Mom, until you get to know her. And it took a couple of years where he put them again with each other alone, left her there and said, get to know her. And I will not go against your wishes, no matter how I'm allowed, how much I'm allowed to do this, I will never do it. At the end of the day, the mother did very much fall in love with that girl, and they had a wonderful wedding and have children now. So it's a success story, but when you've shown to your parents, this is an informed decision I'm making, get to know this person, then you will see that your parents will rise to the occasion, inshallah. Most of them are the kind who will rise. And I've been to so many such weddings, so many weddings where you sit there going, everybody looks so happy here. How did they agree? Like, wow, they look so happy. But you don't realize the 2 years that went into making those parents agree. The drama, the crying, okay, let's break up. Okay, figure it out. Dad, I'm never going to marry again. Mama, all this stuff. And then finally, everyone sits down and says, we want you to be happy, son. We want you to be happy, daughter. But first, prove to us that you really know what you're doing. And sometimes people want to do things even knowing that it's going to be hard, and it's going to be wrong, and it's going to fall apart. And more often than not, sorry to say this, but it does happen that way. The I told you so's are right there, the tip of the tongue of the parents. But what can they do? When you mess up, it's your parents you come back to, and they have to take you back. That's why I really want you to, I'm going to remind again the viewers about that article, those 2 articles that I mentioned last time, and they're on my website, zakirashyrose.com. And one is called Happily Ever After, and those are experiences of interfaith couples. And the other one is Close Encounters of the Arranged Kind, which is all about the arranged marriage process and the difficulties people have had. And there's other articles I've written about success of marriage as well. And there's another one entitled So You Want to Get Married, eh? And that one is about what to ask when you meet a future spouse, how to conduct yourself, what are the important things to tell about yourself as well.
Wonderful. Okay, that's always good to know. All right, so let me just read out some of the comments that we've been receiving via our Facebook live page. Of course, the discussions are rolling in the on the forum there. Right. So here's one comment: marrying within the culture is of the utmost importance, as your future, your children's future, and the family's future depends on it. So that's one comment that we have received. And the second one is, again, in regards to the previous question. So the viewer was quite happy with the answer you gave regarding what should the person do if they found someone that they like, but then their parents want them to marry within the tribe. However, the counter question here is that, but what if your parents say that they want you to marry within the tribe, not for your own best interest or to make your marriage easier, but to actually make them look good in their community and their tribe, not because it's for the child's best? Then what should one do in that case?
Good question. You know what? We are all human, and we're all flawed, and we often want things like, for example, I mentioned that young man who said, it's a preference, I want a fair-skinned girl. Sometimes we say the most silliest things, being the most intelligent people in the world, all right? And sometimes if a parent says, what will people say? Or a parent says, do this so we look good, so that we don't look bad in the community. People will say, our child did this. Parents can say all that. That doesn't mean that that is exactly why you should do what they're saying. Look at the other things in context, right? So sometimes we can say, please eat this because I really like it. You eat it. Well, I don't like it. But no, I like it, so eat it. Well, it's a silly reason to tell somebody to do something. But when you look at the food, you say, hey, this is healthy for me too. Hey, this is something I haven't tried before. This is something I need to give a shot. I need to So all the other things come into play. So when you actually do it, you're not really doing it because your parent told you it looks good or it looks bad. You're doing it because now you've made an informed decision. They could have asked you for a shallow reason not to do something. But you do your own research and realize there's more to it than what they've said. Maybe they haven't been able to articulate it. Maybe that's the most salient thing that comes out. What will people say? That's the most salient. But there's other sub things in there too, sub themes that you need to think about. There's layers and layers. So they might say it like that, but that's not the only reason why you should follow it. There are other merits to that request too.
Right, okay. Do you think we should talk more to our parents? I mean, a lot of our marriage programs is targeted towards those who want to get married. You know, what they should look for in a spouse, what are the values that they should reach out for or look out for. But sadly, there isn't much awareness out there when it comes to our parents and family, especially with this whole culture versus tribe thing. I mean, working with Ahlulbayt TV for many years now, I tell you that the number one one of the most common questions I get asked on a regular basis is the issue of marrying a non-Sayyid versus a Sayyid. And this is a very sensitive question and a very sensitive topic that viewers might find. But it is a question that many viewers ask, and that is, how do I convince my family that I don't need to get married to a Sayyid or a Sayyida?
It's truly a dilemma, and it's not just even this one, but yet all these others about, do I have to marry somebody who's from the same country that we came from? Although we've all grown up here in the West now, you know, the back home thing is still such an important thing. Somebody has to be from that particular city, the same tribe, the same last name, all that stuff. The appeal here is for parents to really start listening to their children. Like you're saying, should kids talk to their parents? I think it's both sides, definitely. I talk to a lot of youth, and I talk to a lot of adults, and both sides say that oh, it's impossible to talk. It's impossible because they yell. The kids are yelling, the parents are yelling, right? So no communication can happen. That is why it's important from the get-go to develop these guidelines of how to behave as a family. I'm a big proponent of going for counseling. I think you don't have to be broken in order to go for counseling. It's such an amazing way to learn how to speak to each other. When you have a facilitator, and it's a safe place, because that facilitator will stop you. Hey, you're yelling, you're blaming, you're prophesizing, you are going back into the past, you are doing all these no-nos. That helps you to speak clearly, to the point, and keep it short, and express your feelings and say, this is what I want. You know, those clarifying, reflecting, all those things we learn. Sometimes in the workplace, they make you go take those kind of courses. We need to develop that at our homes. When a child, I mean, just recently my daughter wanted to go bowling, and so she came and said, Mommy, I really want to, and I said, okay, look, who's taking you, why, all these things. How did it happen? We could have been yelling, and I'm saying, what are you talking about? These things, We had to sort of calm down. My husband had to come. We had to sit and we say, okay, you to explain what you want to do. What do you think, honey? All right, now this is our feelings. This is our fears. This is what you've done in the past. You know, the pattern of behavior in the past where you've let us down. These are the consequences if you don't come back on time. We want to know who you're with, blah, blah, blah. If there's any lie, all these things. In the past, that would have happened with us yelling our heads off, probably, because teenagers start yelling first, by the way. But they will say the parents start yelling first. But we have learned how to communicate because we went through the process. So start talking to your parents at an early age, and the appeal is to the parents, listen to what your children are saying. It is not so that you can agree with what they're saying. Listen so you can understand where they're coming from. What are their fears? Is it because they have to please somebody? Is it bullying they're worried about? Is it about being as good as somebody? Is it about a status symbol that they're doing this? Have they just got anxiety? Are they being misled, or truly is this something they really want? I remember when when I met my husband to see if we were good for each other. It was the arranged marriage process. When my husband left, my husband to be, but when he left, my father said, what do you think? And I said, well, I give my opinion. I was like, whatever. But when my dad said, no, I think this is the kind of boy who'll keep you happy. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, from what I know of you and what I saw of this boy, I think this, and this. And you know what? I remember I was standing on the stairs as I was going back to my room saying, whatever. But when my dad said, I really like this boy, I literally sat down on the stair and I said, tell me more, because you know me better than anyone could ever know me. And your opinion matters to me because I've spent time understanding you. And I look up to you, Dad. And I want you to tell me what you think is good about this guy. Now, to be able to do that meant we've had a relationship from the beginning where I admired my father. I understood what he stood for. He could understand what kind of person I am, so he could give his opinion. That, you know what, you might think, nah, it's okay, but I see much more. I see that you two could really work well together. And I must say, you know, I thank my father because I agreed to marry my husband based completely on my father's opinion. Well, of course, there were so many other things that were completely true about my husband that my dad was right about. But I will say that my dad knew what he was talking about because he understood me. And he passed away just 2 weeks after that, suddenly. And for me, it was the best thing to know that he had approved of my future spouse. His opinion mattered to me because I loved my father enough to respect what he stood for. Get to know your kids. Youngsters come up to me and tell me, you know, my mother doesn't hug me. I want to hug my mom, but she pushes me away. And you know, there's a need for the human body to be held, to be warm and cuddly, and to just to be kissed and to be told you are beautiful. These are feelings that teenagers especially need when they're getting a sense of self and they're not really getting good messages from the world out there. You know, you're not so beautiful, you're not so interesting, you don't belong in this group. All these messages, but at home when you're told you're gorgeous, you're lovely, and you get that warmth and you're hugged, it takes away that need for having it in a romantic way. Because the human being needs to feel secure. We often confuse it thinking we need it in a romantic way. Actually, it's just needing to feel safe. So hold your children, talk to them, understand what they're saying, and try to do it without yelling. It's painful, some of the things they say, the questions they ask about the faith, about the people, about us. You know, you guys are like this, I would never do this. And it's hard, but if it can be done in a respectful way, we can really learned so much. I know that there's so much we want to talk about, but my son recently just said to me, because he's spending some time with his dad at work, and he said to me, you know, Mom, I have newfound respect for Dad now. And I was like, really? And he said, yeah, I see how he deals with his patients. My husband's a doctor, and he says, you know how he's multitasking, and you know the way I see him at home is different from what he is at work. And I don't think I could ever do what he does. Now, for a young man to say that about his parent is like, whoa, that's mind-blowing stuff. But it's because we never take time to see our parents in their element. Spend some time when they are the boss. Because at home, they ain't the boss, really. Do we let them be? But go and see where they're shining and understand when people are praising them that you didn't really see them that way. You just saw them as your enemy.
Sure. No, wonderful thoughts. I do totally agree that I think conversations at home should be held with respect in a very and a mature and calm fashion. So hopefully that can solve the problem between the parent and the child. Okay, lots more questions that we are receiving via our Facebook page. This is a very interesting one, actually. How to know that the person who is interacting with us is showing his real self? Because unfortunately, majority of us just want to show our good side to the world. So how can we avoid this problem?
Very good
And this
question.
is very, in fact, I want to extend this question because I know of a personal situation where two individuals were engaged for quite some time and they loved each other to bits until when they were married, and within the first week of marriage it was unfortunate that the man started to physically abuse the woman, and this girl was astonished. You know, she was like, wow, you know, I didn't know that there was this side to this man, you know, to this man, to this guy. I knew him for so many years, and I would never have thought that straight after marriage, a week in, and he would start hitting me.
A week in, and she knew him for a few years.
And she had known him for quite some time.
Well, see, this is actually, so it's definitely a good question. People often blame the arranged marriage process to say that it's very easy to lie in that process, right? To present an image of yourself which is very positive. But in life, we all do that. Now, we all come dressed up. You've got your suit and tie, and I don't know if you wear this 24 hours a day, right?
I try to.
You've come with a certain image, right? And if you're in an interview, you're going to dress for the interview. Does that mean you're lying? No, you've dressed for the occasion. But we say that in an arranged marriage process, we say things, but it's not just in the arranged marriage process. Even when people are, quote unquote, falling in love, or meeting someone at a bar, or at a grocery shop, or I don't know where people fall in love, wherever. So are we not at our best behavior everywhere? We're always presenting. I mean, it's always when we're on our couch all flopped and watching TVs, they're probably the real us, right? And the way we speak to our family, and the mean words we say to each other, where the as Goffman talks about the visage and how it drops, and he talks about the the presentation of self in everyday life. It's a psychological theory that Goffman had written about how we are all on a stage. And we're all presenting ourselves a certain way. So yes, there's a danger, whether it's an interview process or you're saying to somebody in an interview, I'm great, I work well with, I'm in teams, and I'm a person who multitasks and who can be trusted. And when they, in the 3 months of probation, they'll say, you lied. So eventually it's going to come out. right? What we present. But we all present ourselves in a certain way. Let's not blame the arranged marriage process. It happens in love affairs too, where people are in love with somebody, and then when they get married, they say, whoa, where did this come from? Having said that, in this particular case, stress brings out the worst in us, right? And getting to know somebody really helps. Because then you see them in different situations. You see how they deal with their own parent when their parent says no to them for something. Or when things don't work out at work. Or they've dealt with some big disappointment. Are they these fatalistic people who suddenly say, I want to die, I hate the world, people are so mean. Like, these people who are just drama queens, right? Did you realize this person deals with stress this way? This violence that you're talking about is a classic sign of somebody who doesn't know how to manage their anger. That's why some of the most wonderful people end up being abusive. And you're like, how can this be? It's incongruent, right? Because you can be a great person, but if you don't know how to manage your anger, you could be very well an abusive, wonderful person. That's why a lot of people stick with such people, because they say in every other way he's so wonderful. And that is why, again, going back to counseling, God forbid that we have this problem of abuse, but it's becoming a problem. We have to learn how to manage our anger, and there are ways. Give people a chance enough that they should learn how to manage their anger. Many people have been brought up in homes where it was you couldn't express your anger. So then sometimes you end up being frustrated enough to hit. Sometimes it's you having an inability to express yourself, so therefore you punch a wall. Many times it's because life stressors are so hard, you can't sit and think about all the dynamics of that situation, all the layers, and to talk to somebody and to hear the painful things. What am I doing that bothers you? To be able to hear all that and to respond means you can do conflict resolution. When you can't, you say, well, I'm going to just beat you up and make you listen to me, right? So counseling helps you learn all that. And so it's not that maybe this person lied as such, but life stressors brought all this on. Marriage goes through a lot. Sometimes, God forbid, a child dying, whether it's a miscarriage or a son who's suddenly run over by a car, or at the age of 25, suddenly a son doesn't wake up. These are cases in our communities that have happened. A heart condition that went undetected, cancer. So you have a loss of a child. You have interfering in-laws. You've got, God forbid, your husband meeting somebody at work and getting involved with that person. You've got the wife suddenly becoming very involved with her friends and going out for coffee with her friends all the time. The people are growing apart. Or you find one person becoming less spiritual, one becoming too religious. Then you throw in children into the process. Then you throw in the whole hormonal changes of life. I'm in marriage. You're living with somebody and things are coming at you, right? From the left wing, monkey wrenches are being thrown at you. You have to be a resilient person and a pious person and a person who's afraid of God and a person who's in this for the long haul and a person who wants to be a better person. Then you can make it through all that. Otherwise, these stressors are all deal breakers. Sometimes people say, oh, we broke up, but that was so dumb. Why did we break up for that? Because we didn't learn conflict resolution. And if there's anything lacking in our communities, it's not matchmaking. It's learning conflict resolution before we get to this point. It's not our community's responsibility. We should be doing this ourselves, but our communities traditionally have been the ones that provide everything. We're, one-stop center, burial and birth and education of the child and spirituality and social recreation. We do everything. So then let's throw this in too. We need to have these couple therapy things before people ever start getting married and looking at each other for the arranged marriage process, or just getting to...
So are you saying we should have these counseling sessions during the period of engagement?
Even before that. Even before that.
I mean,
yes.
you'd go to counseling for what purpose? I mean, you talk about conflict resolution. This will only arise if there's a conflict, right? I mean, if two people are talking and they're very happy and things are swimmingly going well, then why would they go to counseling in the first place?
I beg to differ. We're maybe saying the word counseling. We should learn how to be better people. Learn how to...
well, suppose two people are living in different countries. I mean, for example, I was brought up in England. I lived in England for most of my life, and my wife was from Canada. We were engaged for 3 years. We couldn't. There was no way we could do counseling. Could we online? I don't know.
Well, you never visited in all those 3 years.
We did, but it was for a couple. It was for like a few days anyway.
This brings me to an important thing, because I want to still also answer that question more deeply about the arranged marriage process. But you know, when we are given time together, we do spend it in just doing recreational things, and that's not a bad thing. But I can't tell you the number of times I have arranged for people to meet, and some families are happy with their children going for a coffee rather than meeting at home in a more contrived atmosphere, quote unquote. And what happens to those people? They go for a coffee.
Sorry, let's take the call before we lose the call. 1 second.
Yes.
Oh, we've lost the caller.
So what happens? Please call again. So what happens in that is they just go for a coffee and come back, and you're like, okay, what did you find out about each other? Oh, nothing. And this is after several coffees of many dates, quote unquote. Treating a date as a date. When you're meeting somebody for the purpose of marriage, you should be asking some important questions. So we lose some important time getting to know somebody because we spend too much time enjoying each other's company.
But the question from the viewer is that how do we know that during this phase of asking important marriage questions, they're not lying to you?
I'm getting to that. I answered your dilemma about being apart. When you were together in those few days, there was more time spent getting to like that time spent together, right? Recreational stuff. Whereas we should be learning more about communicating with each other. And you're saying that unless we have a conflict, what is there to resolve? No. You learn the theory of how to speak. You learn the theory of how, I mean, there's three sentences where you say, when you do this, I feel this. Right. Number two, when you do this, and then the second one is, I feel this. And the third is, I need more this. So you learn how to say things in 3 sentences. You learn how to, when somebody says this, you say back to them. So what I'm hearing you say is that when I do this, you feel this. Using correct words and allowing that person then to reflect back and clarify what they meant to say in the first place. When this happens, communication starts to take place. So when you're meeting somebody in the arranged marriage process, you're asking yourself, what if they're lying to me? This question is always in the back of the mind, whether you're on a date or whether you are meeting for an arranged marriage process. We're always wondering, is this person really as good as they sound? And definitely that's a valid question. There are people who lie, so we need to be careful. But when you've met somebody and you're saying to them, listen, this is like taking the fourth wall away. You know, when somebody looks at the camera and they're suddenly saying something right to the camera, that's what it is. Mm-hmm. You take the fourth wall out and you say to each other, listen, this feels very awkward. This is too contrived, and I'm getting to know you, but it's really strange. But I just want to say, let's be honest, because if you lie and I lie, we're both lying to each other, ourselves. We're ruining our own future. Much as I would like to have a future with you, I would like it to be based on truth, because I don't want to create problems for you. Ultimately, it's going to be my problem, right? So you say that. You say, listen, this feels weird. We're right here. Let's be honest with each other. And if you don't, there's some things you really want to tell me, please do. Mm-hmm. And, I want you to tell the parents. But let's just get, you really hate this? You really don't like me? Please let me know, right? Mm-hmm. So you be on, that person is as upset about this process as you are. They're also as nervous as you are. And I must say, when you do this a few times, you get better at it. It's just like when you go to a few interviews, you become interview savvy. You learn how to answer the way you're supposed to have answered. That doesn't mean that you've learned to be a liar. It just means you've learned how to present yourself and articulate yourself in a more clear fashion. I'd say the interview process helps us learn about ourselves too, right? Makes us realize, hey, like, oh my God, I never realized this question that came, I need to think about it. Doing the arranged marriage thing really makes you learn about yourself. Because when somebody says, what kind of girl do you want? What kind of guy do you want? You're like, I don't know, never thought of this, right? And it's amazing how many people still think arranged marriage means suddenly it's going to be on your wedding night, woohoo, I'm your wife. Like literally in this day and age, I'm getting that. Someone just said to me, when you set me up, I thought it's going to be like that. Hello? Really? You don't even know what arranged marriage means? It means your parents are good enough to say, here's somebody, you sit with them and get to know them. If you guys want to go for a coffee, want to go out, we're fine with that. It's in a controlled environment. Get to know each other. You like each other? We're happy with it. You don't like each other? No problem. we'll send somebody else to you to get to know. How wonderful that is that somebody's been screened and presented to you. But we want to, say it's not good enough and it's too hard. I would rather meet them suddenly. When you meet somebody suddenly, you know what happens? That visceral reaction that, oh wow, gorgeous person. And then you're blinded. And then you can't ask the important questions. This happens when people are in love. Because that love is so
Can I ask you
so
a psychological question just on that note?
Uh-huh.
What was I going to ask you? I forgot now. But on that note, in terms of finding somebody who
I'm glad you forgot what you were going to say.
No, just on that note.
Giving me a hard time.
Of finding someone who you love, right? Can you blame somebody to just meet someone and fall in love with them just instantly?
Well, look, we're using the word love very lightly here, okay? You could say you're attracted.
But that's what they're saying.
You're saying that you're intrigued.
Sight.
Yeah, that's because people don't want to think about the word love too deeply. They say, boom, reaction, this must be love. Fireworks, this must be love.
But are we
and
saying
then
that
they
because
realize, well, that wasn't love at all.
Are we judging these individuals?
No,
are we saying this because we
general.
Obviously we haven't been in their situation, so we don't know what it's like, right? So
Maybe.
can we speak on their behalf? Like,
no, people have been in love and not been in love, and they'll tell you that they were confused sometimes, right? I mean,
Right.
it's not, this visceral reaction is very dangerous. In fact, it's a blinding thing.
okay, sorry,
So much
we're
to say
we're
in so
running
little time.
we're running out of time,
Oh my
and
God.
our Facebook live stream page is going. Yeah, we're
Alhamdulillah.
having lots of comments from our dear viewers who are
Oh,
watching
man.
us live. So I'll just read a couple of them. Any relation starting with greed and fraud will not stay long and will end with regret.
Absolutely.
Ego is one big topic which has been ruining people's lives generations after generations. Love and justice must be the most important thing in love and arranged marriages.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for your comments. Okay, I have a question that has been sent to me privately by an individual, and it's a lengthy question. A friend got married partly to please the parents after they did not approve of a potential love marriage to a revert which he wanted. After the arranged marriage, there are still those strong residual feelings and worry of whether those feelings will ever go away because he is just going along with not what he really wants. Furthermore, there are feelings of resent because no one in the family wants to entertain the idea of a divorce based on feelings and disrespect to the family, etc. What is the sister's experience, as in your experience, on this matter?
So this is after the fact. You're married to somebody and you still feel that this wasn't the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And now what do you do and no one wants to hear you out?
Yeah,
Right?
pretty much.
You know what? This is a tough one, and I want to answer this, but we're talking about a marriage that's already happened. I feel that we still need to be talking about arranged marriage and love marriage. So there's a few things I still want to say, which if you'll give me permission, Hussein, then I will continue with some of the things I really wanted to say. But to just quickly answer this question, once marriage has already happened, you've made a commitment. Much as it's difficult at this point, unless it's completely impossible and you can't live with this person, do make an effort. Residual feelings can be discussed in therapy. Get it out of your system. Maybe this is just a feeling of outrage that you were not given this opportunity to do what you wanted to do. But now the ship has sailed, and especially if, God forbid, children are involved in the process, the ship has really sailed, and now the stakes are higher and they're different. And I dare say even before children. I mean, families are involved. Marriage has taken place, and you've got somebody else now on this journey who came in your life thinking that you've made a promise. And much as you have these feelings that, this wasn't the way you wanted it, etc., etc., give somebody a chance and get to know them. So millions of movies are made about this, about marrying. So many Bollywood movies, so many movies are made about this, dramas, Pakistani dramas, about marrying arranged, having even a loved one on the side, and yet then realizing when you live with somebody, marriage brings out love in you in a different way than even with your girlfriend or boyfriend. And you realize, yes, much as I love you, this person has committed for a future, and I owe something to this person. Millions of movies are made about this. So it's not the first person who feels this way. But let me just go back to our topic about arranged marriage and love marriage. We're talking about the importance of finding somebody who you know, who has the same feelings as us in terms of values and principles. I just wanted to share this beautiful episode from the life of Imam Ali and Bibi Fatima alayhi salam. And I just want the hadith in front of me properly so I don't misquote it. But it is on their wedding night, where Imam Ali alayhi salam enters the room and he finds Bibi Fatima Zahra salamullahi alayha crying, quite upset, quite in anxiety, worried. And he says to her, he says, what has happened? Why are you unhappy? Why are you sad? Why are you crying? And she answers, Ya Ali, I thought about my state and my actions and remembered the end of my life and my grave today.
Wow.
Think of what a philosophical young lady Imam Ali alayhi salam has married. What a pious woman. That for her, everything is an ayatullah. It's a sign of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's always about remembering what she's in this world about. And then she says, Ya Ali, when he answers, what do you mean, O daughter of Prophet Fatima Zahra? She replies, Ya Ali, today I've gone from my father's house to your house. And another day I'll go from here to the grave. And then resurrection. Therefore, I swear by you to Allah, come let us stand in prayer so that we can worship Allah together on our first night. Showing us here that she's just reminded him, you know, here we are in this beautiful night of our lives. We've just been married, people have celebrated, and you know, people get carried away with this party atmosphere of a wedding. Theirs was a very beautiful celebration where the angels came from the heavens to celebrate and celebrated in the heavens. But what's amazing is she's saying, listen, a chapter of my life has just ended and a new one has started. And soon it'll end in this here too, and I'll be in my grave. And you know, she didn't live long. She was only 18. And here she was already thinking about her end. And she was saying, and then we're going to be woken up from that grave, another chapter. So from Barzakh, all this other, Ya Ali, we need to pray. We need to stand together in front of God and make a commitment and decide what this path in front of us is going to look like. And how do I assist you to seek your God's pleasure? And that's why he answers the next day to the Holy Prophet that in serving my Lord, there could never be a better partner than Fatima. That's the kind of spouse you need, who says, listen, this is just life. You know, things come and go, honey. Let's not, you know, cry about this. Or my mother is doing this and creating problems. That's okay, honey. We can get through this. We're going to talk about this and decide how you and I can support each other. I might not be able to solve the problem with my mother,
yes,
but I can be there and hold your hand. And I know you want to talk about this stuff.
No,
but
I know about this stuff. I want to ask you a very,
I have something else
I want
to
to
say.
ask you a very practical question.
All right.
Because,
okay,
you know, while of course this is a wonderful hadith and
but the
something that we
interfering
should...
in-laws, I don't want to go
No,
into that topic.
While
Yeah.
this is a very interesting narration and one that we should be aspiring to achieve, inshallah, in our own lives with our spouses, practically speaking, when you say that this is the kind of spouse that we need to have, how practical is it to find this level of a spouse in today's day and age? And how do you find someone like that?
Yes,
it's very difficult.
It's very difficult.
I mean, how do
it's
you
very
find somebody
difficult.
who... How would you know if a potential person prays Salatul Layl in the middle of the night? What, you'll just ask them and they will
Well,
be
you have
truthful?
a very valid question. Sometimes we married a very religious family and the boy turns out completely irreligious, right?
Absolutely.
It happens. Or someone who gives this impression of being at the mosque every day and all this, and then and always, you know, the beard and the this and that, and then when you marry them, you realize, whoa, there is no faith here at all.
Exactly.
So that is a big chance we are taking, absolutely, with anybody. It's not an arranged marriage or a love marriage question.
This isn't
right?
a love marriage.
Absolutely,
or a
absolutely.
Yes, it's a general
so
question.
It's a general question, and the thing is, yes, how hard it is to find such a mate, it's very hard, because spirituality is something that we sometimes misunderstand. We think it's just outward expressions of faith. So that's one thing, because we judge people thinking they're going to be, and then it helps to get to know that person. It helps to understand them completely. It helps to take time. Don't jump the gun, whether it's love or arranged. Take some time to understand. But also, don't forget that there is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Pray, reach out to Him, ask Him to help you find that mate. When you say to Allah, I want somebody who will help me on this path, Ya Allah. Don't abandon me here. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will infuse barakah and will bring that person to your door. And I talked about this last time, last episode, where I talked about how I wore hijab and everyone told me, where are you going to find a guy who appreciates your hijab? And what have you done? And all these questions. And I said, I will find a guy who will appreciate me for my hijab. And truly, I wore it in September, February, my husband comes, and he was a person who said to me, you know, that was one of the things that really impressed me about you, that you were wearing hijab, but I had not even specified I wanted this in a girl. But the thing is, when you ask for something good, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring that to your door. So don't discredit that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has power to make the impossible happen and bring the right person in your life if you've got the sincerity. In terms of this whole thing about the whole contrived experience of arranged marriage, and learn how to ask the right questions. Just like when you prepare for an interview, prepare for this, asking yourself, what do you do when you get angry? How do you deal with things, in disappointments in life? You're asking some very open-ended questions, and sometimes there's some nice board games that help us ask, really find out about some people, and write those kind of questions down. They won't necessarily get answered in the first few meetings, but they will get answered in your mind as you spend some time with them. When you grocery shop for, just your mom says go buy some bread, and you go with this person with them, and how do you make a decision to buy something? How much money do you spend? How do they cringe when they're spending too much? Or when you're arguing about something, how did they deal with it? Did they walk out and you didn't see them for 3 days? Did they But when you've already fallen in love, how do you now say, well, I don't like this about you, but I'm in love. How can I? You know what happens? It blinds you. It doesn't allow you to look at what's important. And I will say this, something I've noticed lately, and it bothers me. I go to these weddings, and they have these slideshows of this groom and bride. The kind of pictures you see up there are pictures that I probably haven't taken with my spouse after many years of marriage. Very huggy, touchy-feely kind of pictures, right? You're looking at that and you're thinking, so I'm not saying maybe they've had their muta, whatever, but this is what they were doing. I hope that they were getting to know each other a lot. You know what happens? You get so blinded because, oh, now you've got someone to date. And that's good and that's great. But remember, the engagement process is a time to really figure out if this is good for you. And if you go too far physically, even to break up is going to be that much harder. It's going to be harder to break up, and also you've now touched somebody and been touched by someone. These are real issues. They create some problems for you in your own future. And don't ruin stuff for yourself. Some stuff keep for your future. Do you understand what I'm saying? We're so fast in allowing this freedom that we're not using that time to get to know each other. We're running out of time. I want to just talk about some of the stats that I've come across, statistics, where you think that we're the only ones who say arranged marriage is the way to go. No, we've got great researchers like Dr. Robert Epstein.
Okay, we have a minute, so very quickly,
from
please.
Harvard, and he's come to this Harvard professor, and he's interviewed Indian, Pakistani, Orthodox, Jewish, 100 couples, arranged marriages, assessing their strength, and he's done this for 30 years. And he came, and you're running out of time. And what did he find? He's saying arranged marriage is truly, he's saying I'm not an advocate, but I'm really saying we in the West need to look at how we find mates in a different way. And he talks about how the love goes away in marriage, in love marriage very quickly, because it's already a boiling pot. Whereas in marriage, it starts to simmer and get even, arranged marriage, it gets even warmer and warmer. The satisfaction in marriage after 5 years as opposed to 10 years is higher.
Ahlulbayt TV, the holy household